All right, guys, so welcome back. Going into our week 8 predictions now, coming out a little bit later than normal. Had a bit of a busy week for both of us this week, but still getting out the weeks. We texted both of our Thursday night picks to each other so that we have the honesty there and we know who each other picked. So we don't have to worry about that for next week. So we will have both those down. And starting out in week 7, which I thought was a pretty weird week, we go into Thursday night football where the Carolina, yes. The Cardinals take down the Saints on Thursday Night Football in Arizona in a high-scoring game, 42 to 34. DeAndre Hopkins comes back with a 10-reception game for 103 yards, and I was surprised with your pick for the Saints.
Yeah, I was a little wary about the Cardinals, especially because DeAndre Hopkins was coming back, but it was his first week back, so I thought there would be a little bit of a layover, if that makes any sense. But yeah, they were able to win, and it was actually a very close, high-scoring game considering Andy Dalton threw 3 pretty bad interceptions. So if he were able to maybe subtract 1 or 2 or all of them, how different the game might have turned out.
And that's where you see the turnover battle playing a big affair. I mean, just today I was watching the Penn State game, and Penn State was in the game for most of the game, but you saw Penn State gave the ball up 4 times and Ohio State didn't give the ball up once, and that was ultimately the difference in the game. So yeah, winning the turnover battle is a huge piece of the game, and 2 pick sixes ends up being the difference in the game. I mean, they were down by 8. One of those doesn't happen, and maybe it's a closer game. So Saints definitely hurt themselves there. I don't know if you guys saw the clip, but one of the best clips by far this season is Andy Dalton walking off the field stressed with
looking dejected, and then you see
the safety just
Cardinals
flying in the back.
Yeah, just dive through the background he comes from out of the shot.
I can just see his face being like, "Ooh."
Yeah, I love that clip. That is a great moment.
That was an amazing clip. Then going into Sunday, the Bengals take on the Falcons and absolutely take care of business, use it as a bounce back game. Joe Burrow plays out of his mind with just under 500 yards on 34 completions and 3 touchdowns, plus another 20 yards rushing with a touchdown, and take care of the Falcons. And even though the Falcons are 3-4, which looks very ugly to the eye and very unappealing, they're still in the division. I mean, Tampa's 3-4, they're 3-4. Saints and Cardinals, both Carolina. Why am I getting those two mixed up right now? Both of those two sitting at 2-5 in the division. The NFC South looks terrible. That might be the worst division in football right now.
The NFC in general, pretty much outside of the NFC East for some reason, has been pretty disappointing. If you look at it, the Rams aren't playing good really at all. Like you can't really point to teams outside the NFC East and really say, oh, they're having a very good season, because if you look at it, the best teams in the NFC are from the NFC East, which is
odd after the last couple of years.
Yeah, considering how bad it was in 2020, where we won the division at 7-9. So yeah, this has been a weird year for football, because teams like the Packers,
which we'll get to later, the Packers lost.
The Rams aren't playing that good for some reason. So it's been a very strange 7 weeks up to this point. I like it. I like some of the things. I like seeing teams like the Jets play better and look good, but it's definitely been a strange couple weeks of football.
Going to the return of Dak in Dallas. Now, I chose the Lions here. I thought I was getting away with it, as going into the third quarter, it was 10-6. It was a close game, but Jamal Williams fumbles the bag at the 1-yard line, and the Cowboys take it and run and end up winning the game 24-6 and make it look a lot more convincing than it actually was. I mean, Dak Prescott, though, has a decent return back, 19 for 25, only 6 incompletions,
very efficient.
207 yards and a touchdown. So he played pretty well, only got sacked twice. He played a pretty good game, but like you said, Ezekiel Elliott did suffer an injury, so Tony Pollard taking over a big load of the carries. Now, real quick, Do you think this is where Zeke's career kind of derails itself?
Well, what's the injury?
I will look it up,
Because it
but
depends on what the injury is.
it says it's a knee thigh injury, not expected to suit up Sunday against the Bears. I say if he has more than I say if he misses like 3 weeks and Tony Pollard fills in the gap and has no issues, Ezekiel Elliott will be on the downfall. I think Ezekiel Elliott has already been on the downfall, and Tony Pollard has filled in his spot really well and actually plays a better role for the Cowboys in the type of offense that they need to play right now with, only one receiver who can really do anything. They are getting Michael Gallup. He hasn't looked the same, but they do have Michael Gallup back. But without Amari Cooper, they just need as many weapons as they can get. And Tony Pollard definitely plays that type of game better than Ezekiel Elliott. So I feel like this is Tony Pollard's chance to really take over the Cowboys' backfield, and Ezekiel Elliott might be kind of rustling his way out of the running back
Yeah, Tony
situation.
Pollard is. It seems like he's a more explosive back. Whenever you look at the Cowboys' stat lines, like Tony Pollard's stats always seem like he has less carries, but typically either more yards or just more yards per carry. So I'm definitely
He did in this
interested to
game.
see what Tony Pollard under a full load will look like. I think the Cowboys' offense will be a little more dynamic because I think they've been a little not like one-sided, I should say, but starting to get a little too predictable. And I think this could possibly change it up, adding that, giving a Pollard the majority of the carry. So I'm interested to see. But going to the Lions, that offense has taken a turn significantly since the beginning of the season. They lost DeAndre Swift, and Amon-Ra St. Brown recently. They just got a concussion, so it's quite a big turn of events considering at the beginning of the season we were both saying, oh, it's a very exciting offense, but the last few weeks they haven't really been scoring at all.
Yeah, I mean they
So,
were they were
yeah.
top five in scoring and yards altogether on
Mm-hmm.
offense, and they've kind of fell off, like you said. They're missing DeAndre Swift a ton. Jamal Williams usually does fill in the gap pretty well, but I mean
He's
that
not the same player.
yeah, and that fumble at the goal line really just takes down your ego. So that hurts him. But I mean, they're making do with some of the players that they have. I mean, Craig Reynolds, who I have never heard of prior to this season. I'm sure you have never heard of prior to this season. He's come on a couple weeks. Josh Reynolds, who had a couple decent seasons in LA when he had to fill in for Cooper Kupp or Van Jefferson getting injured. He's played a couple decent games. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I mean, he was high picks in fantasy in multiple leagues, so it is interesting to see what'll happen there. Uh, Going to the Colts at Titans game. Now, we both had the Colts in this game, and Matt
Yeah.
Ryan absolutely poos the bed, and it leads to his benching after this week.
Which is that's head scratching to me because if you look at it, the Colts have been like throwing the ball around 40 something times a game, and like he didn't have a great game, but I mean, there's worse. He threw two picks, 243 yards on 44 on 243 yards and 44 attempts. He completed 33 of his passes. I would have liked to see Jamal or Jonathan Taylor get a little more involved, and I think that's what we're going to see this upcoming week. But when I saw that they were benching him, I was a little shocked
The only
because the guy they're starting, I don't
Sam
like.
Ellinger.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, I'm pretty sure he wasn't exactly ready to be a backup. So I have no. They must have not a lot of faith in Matt Ryan, and I think Frank Reich could be like the spotlight maybe being like pointed towards him a little more, and if things don't improve, I think we could see him being outed.
Sam Ellinger was a sixth-round pick last season from Texas. I doesn't look like he had no playing time last season.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like he really had. Oh, that's regular season. So I'll get these for the actual podcast. See what we can pull up on his preseason games if he played in any of those. But he definitely. I'm interested to see what'll happen. I mean, even
Yeah,
it says here, even Matt Ryan was shocked for the being benched. I don't think it really. I think it really did kind of come out of the blue, but Tennessee does upset them. And the only thing Tennessee did, the only way they really scored points on, well, at all, was from a pick six. So they were able to move the ball down the field, just not finish the job. And they had a lot of field goals. They only had one touchdown. So maybe that's the reasoning for Matt Ryan's. I mean, Matt Ryan has been disappointing this season. I thought the Colts were going to be tops in the AFC South, and they've kind
I
of
did
just
too.
fell off.
And
I thought Matt Ryan was going to be a decent piece, but
he's actually been a downgrade from Carson
yeah,
Wentz if you
I would
look
say.
at it.
But going to the Green Bay at Washington game, this is a game that we will kind of hint at, but not really get too deep into because we will talk about it on our podcast on Apple and Spotify, Brotherly Love in the District, if you guys want to go check that out. But just touching into the game, surprise win for Washington. I mean,
Yeah,
how surprised were you? I was pretty
I was
surprised.
pretty surprised in the beginning. I think Taylor Heineke made some of the worst throws I think I've ever seen. He had like 3 or 4 passes that could have easily been pick sixes. He did throw a pick six, and then I'm pretty sure there was a fumble that could have been returned for a touchdown, but there was a weird penalties, so that saved us. But in the second, in the second half, he picked up his game. But throughout the whole game, a lot of our team just stepped up their game. The offensive line played better. Our running backs, they had great games. Our defense was actually looking pretty decent against Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know what it is. I'm going to go more in depth into it, but it seems like our team just elevated its play and kind of seemed to rally around Taylor Heineke a little bit more than Wentz. So I I don't
That's
know if it's like because about the last 2 years he's been with them, but yeah, it just seemed like the team was playing better.
I do think Taylor Heineke has a bit of, like you said, just a little bit more of the team rallying behind him, just because of the way that he did play and the things he did. But we will talk more about that in the podcast. So if you guys want to check that out, go on over to Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to your podcast. Going to the Bucks game, surprising loss here for the Bucks. They drop one to Carolina, and no
Against
pun intended.
Philip Walker.
No pun intended there saying drop one, because I think the turning point of that game was Mike Evans wide open, has it right in the bread basket and just bobbles it and lets it fall out of his hands. And you can see, if you see the certain angle, you can see him yelling no as the ball keeps on bobbling in his hands and goes 10 yards downfield.
Yeah, I think something is seriously wrong with this team, and they just lost Shaq Barrett for the rest of the season. The offensive line isn't getting better, and Brady, I think he's been rightfully getting the blame, and I think he should continue to do so because fast forward a little bit to the Thursday night, he was missing some throws that he should have made. So I think is it him coming up to the end of his career? I don't know because we don't know when he's going to retire since
He said in a interview no retirement. He doesn't see retirement in his future, but if he keeps on playing like this season, it might be after this season.
Yeah, he got a divorce to do this. I don't understand like what's wrong with this team because last year they were playing great, but they can't really get the run game going. Even if they did, they wouldn't really give the ball to Leonard Fournette or Rashad White enough. And I think the Bucks are on the downfall because they lost to a Panthers team that just fired their head coach, traded their second best wide receiver,
Traded their best their running back.
Yeah, they just traded Christian McCaffrey, but yet they still beat the Bucks with their third or fourth quarterback they've had this season.
Third quarterback because no, it's only their second actually technically because Baker Mayfield.
No, I thought he played the first week against the Browns. Remember?
Yeah, but I'm trying to think. Sam Darnold has been injured, so I think Philip Walker is only the second quarterback because Sam Darnold was injured at the beginning of the season. No,
Did he not?
Darnold was injured at the beginning of the season. Baker started the season, and then once he got hurt, I think PJ Walker came in, former
Okay.
XFL quarterback. So that is what I believe happened. Going to the Giants game, this one was a good game. This one, the Jaguars almost pulled out at the end, and I don't know what, they got stopped at the 1 yard line at the end of the game, and the Jaguars ended up losing it. Doug Peterson should have threw the Philly special. I'm sure that would have got him the win. It worked in the Super Bowl. Why not try again? So
Why not?
yeah, they get stopped at the 1 yard line. The New York defense comes up big, who's been carrying them a lot this season, and
Their
helps them
offense
take over the
played
Jags.
their offense played pretty decent though. Daniel Jones, like 19 for 30 with 202 passing yards and a touchdown, but he ran for 100 yards on 11 carries and had a rushing touchdown. Also,
Daniel Jones.
Saquon,
Daniel Jones is the best running quarterback that you would not expect to be a good running quarterback.
I have no clue
He,
why.
he had 3 less yards than Saquon on 13 less carries.
Yeah, but Saquon was a beast. Yeah, I don't understand this Giants team. I mean, I formally apologized to them. I was 100% wrong. I had some
You
awful
weren't
takes
familiar
before the
with their
season.
game.
Yeah, yeah. Show the Shaq meme, but
I'm just surprised that the only I mean their defense was good from the start of the season. We've been
yeah,
saying that. Their defense was good. They've stayed healthy. I think that's a huge piece. And one of the biggest pieces was the health of Saquon. So they
that's been big for them.
yeah, that has been big for them because he's been a game changer. I mean,
Yeah, if he
that's
continues
why they
this,
drafted him.
he's like a low key contender for MVP. He could easily finish in the top five.
Yeah. And I, actually, you know what? I don't think he's leading the league in rushing anymore because
He's
I
not.
think Nick Chubb took that over. But I can actually look. Offensive leaders rushing. Yeah, he's 14 yards behind Nick Chubb for the NFL rushing leaders. So, but he is having a heck of a year, and that's easy to see just coming off of injury with the Giants' offensive line that he's been behind for years. He's playing pretty well. Uh, one of only a couple different games that we had, the Browns at the Ravens. Now, I've seen a lot of. I didn't get to see much of this game, but I've seen a lot of things saying that the refs wanted to give the Ravens this win and that the Ravens were kind of handed this win due to penalties and everything. So I know it was a close game. It was a 20-23 game, and the Browns did almost kick that field goal at the end to get the game tied, but I thought the Browns were going to pull it off. I want to say that would have been another pretty big blown lead by the Ravens.
Yeah, with the Ravens, I think for me the biggest story of this team is the fact that Lamar Jackson is doing a lot with very little weapons. He doesn't really have a number one wide receiver. He has Mark Andrews, but that's it. They're a running team, but outside of that, they need some serious help on the offense because Lamar's playing great and he's been carrying them pretty a lot up to this point, but they're really going to need to solve some things, whether it's at the trade deadline, pick up Odell from free agency, or just go to the offseason and draft the guy or sign somebody.
Gus Edwards, I mean, J.K. Dobbins is out now for a while.
Yeah,
J.K. Dobbins
that's going to hurt them.
has been put on IR. So, I mean, honestly, I don't think J.K. Dobbins was really doing that much to begin with. But
He had a good game last week.
They are losing J.K. Dobbins, so Gus Edwards is going to have to step up and be that change up in the backfield. Going to the Jets game. Now, this one, I was surprised that we said what we said for the Jets. You know, I never thought I'd be picking the Jets to win a game over the Broncos, but the Jets do end up taking the win over the Broncos.
They lost Brees Hall for the entire year, and he was having an amazing game. 4 carries for 72 yards and a touchdown. They're really going to miss him. I think he probably would have been Offensive Rookie of the Year. I don't know. Maybe Chris Olave could have
I think Brees Hall would have ran away with it. I think now
Yeah,
I would say Kenneth Walker probably now has the lead for offensive rookie of the year because Kenny Pickett
I would still give it to Olave because he's top five in wide receiver yards.
is he? I didn't think
Yes, he
he
is. I
was.
believe so from last I checked.
He's not anymore.
No, but he's still. I think he's in the top
He's
10.
not
He's
even top.
probably.
He's 11. He's
Oh,
tied. He's
he
tied for
just fell
11th.
out, but
He is just under 500 yards.
he's still having a pretty decent season. So I would still have him ahead of Walker.
He has 32 receptions for 500 yards, averaging 13 or 15. Oh, I think I read, yeah, 32 for 495, 15.5 yards a reception. So, yeah, he's playing well. I still think Kenneth Walker is going to be offensive rookie of the year. He's been playing really well. But yeah, the Jets are looking really good this season. Coming out,
And
they really went on against a. They played well against a Denver defense, which might is one of the better defenses in the league.
yeah, they've
If
been playing pretty good this season, but their offense is putrid.
if I was the Denver defense, I would be so mad at Russell Wilson and the offense and the fact that they
Well,
can't score
yeah.
points.
Well, considering he's doing high knees in the middle of the aisle on a plane, I'd be mad at him for that. But there's something wrong. He's not making reads. The offense just isn't clicking at all. He's making the wrong reads. He's not throwing to the right guy. There's been multiple pictures of him looking the other way when to his right is just outside his peripheral. There's somebody wide open. So
Something
maybe
definitely seems wrong in Denver.
something's wrong. I think there's a problem with coach, like the head coach. I don't think who's their head coach.
Nathaniel Hackett, he was the offensive coordinator with
Yeah,
the Packers.
always his name, but I don't think he's the guy for the job. He may not be ready for a head coaching role yet, but yeah, something's going on because earlier in the season, like even before it, people were saying that this is going to be a very good team, that Russell Wilson is going to take this Denver offense over the edge. They're going to be serious contenders, and that just hasn't been the case.
Going to the Texans game, this one was an easy one that we both picked. Raiders just absolutely dominate the Texans, win 38-20. Josh Jacobs with a heck of a game, kind of making a low key run for maybe offensive player of the year. 20 carries, 143 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So he had a big game. They're really starting to lean on him. And
But the Texans didn't play half bad, though.
the Raiders are only 2-4. I thought the Raiders were going to be good this season.
I did, I did too, but I just think they've been in some close games, and their record I don't
They are
think
losing.
really
They're losing the close games, which isn't.
Yeah, I don't think
recipe
the
for
record
success.
reflects the quality of the team.
Going on to the Seahawks Chargers game. Now, this was one when I was going back and doing some editing and stuff. I looked and I couldn't believe I picked the Seahawks. I was like, "Is this right?" I had to go back and watch the footage to make sure that I did pick the Seahawks because I was so confused. And I was like,
I should have.
I did pick
I
the
should have
Seahawks.
trusted my gut. I just had a. I know, but the Seahawks, I think they're the team to beat in their division. I think this has been one of the finest coaching jobs we've seen from Pete Carroll. Geno Smith, I think, could be
Geno Smith is the MVP.
comeback player of the year without a doubt. I mean, at the beginning of the season, like when's the last time somebody's ever heard from Geno Smith?
Exactly.
It's been a while, but they're playing good. Kenneth Walker had a ridiculous game. Their defense did pretty decent considering how good the Chargers offense is supposed to be. So, but I think the Chargers defense has been the most disappointing thing about their team this year.
I wouldn't even say that Geno Smith. I mean, he played decently. He had 210 touchdowns and 210 yards and 2 touchdowns with an interception on 20 passes. But Kenneth Walker, they ran the offense through him. 23 carries, 167 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He is going to be really good. He's going to be
and
really
Pete Carroll, he's always been a coach that favors the run more the pass, even though
the Super Bowl.
Even though the one time he favored the pass, it was an awful decision.
Yeah.
But I think Pete Carroll's done a pretty good job with this team so far.
Yeah, I'm really surprised with the way they're playing. This one was one that surprised me. The Chiefs just. And I thought that San Fran was going to lose. What surprised me was the absolute domination that the Chiefs put up over the 49ers. I think. I just don't understand what's happening with the 49ers. I thought they looked like a good team. I still thought they were going to lose, but I thought they were going to put up more of a fight. This was actually my game that I picked last week as my game of the week. You picked Seattle. I picked this one, but I mean, it really wasn't a good game. I mean, Kansas City put up 44 on one of the better defenses in the league. So, I mean, Patrick Mahomes doing Patrick Mahomes things with 3 touchdowns, went 25 for 34 with 423 yards. Like, that is insane.
Just absolutely whooped them in the second half.
Isaac Pacheco, I think it's Isaac.
Pacheco.
He went 8 for 43, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire 6 for 32. So it looks like they might be moving back to I'm gonna double check because it might be Isaiah. It is Isaiah Pacheco. So they might be moving towards him. He was just drafted this season. I believe he's a rookie. So it will be interesting to see if they move towards their running back, even though Andy Reid doesn't really use his running backs.
Mm-hmm.
Closing out real quick, this was the one that really tied us up, the Dolphins and the Steelers game. And
it was a close game, though. I mean, they were within a chance, but Kenny Pickett channeled his inner older Big Ben and just made some truly awful throws. And if I'm Pittsburgh, I'm putting Mitch Trubisky back in there. I'd like Kenny Pickett's reads, especially that last play of the game, were not up to par at all. I think if we looked at the game they won against, who was that upset win they had that I predicted?
Oh, the Bucs.
Yeah, their offense looked better with Trubisky in, so I think they should put him back in. But the defenses look pretty decent. The Dolphins, they played okay. I think we kind of saw the rustiness with Tua. He played but overall was not a very great game.
It's now going to be interesting to see if Tua kind of starts to make a comeback from his injuries and see what he does.
And I think we could see that. I think he's just had to find his footing, and I think we're going to see that next week.
Surprising Monday Night Football game. And it wasn't a close win. It was an absolute shutdown game for the Bears.
It wasn't even close.
They dominated Chicago or New England. And New England started out with Mac Jones at quarterback, and Mac Jones got benched in the first quarter, and they put Bailey Zappi back in.
He threw an awful interception, and then Bailey Zappi proceeded to do the same thing, throw some pretty bad interceptions.
I'm lost. I'm at a loss for words.
I was shocked to see that score line. Like, they just ran the ball down their throat. I mean, Justin Fields only had 21 pass attempts on 179 yards, but it was 33-14.
Justin Fields rushed for, like you said, they ran the ball down their throat. Justin Fields rushed for 82 yards. David Montgomery for 62. They both had a good game. Khalil Herbert had another 62. Just under 250 rush yards as a team on 45 carries. So they ran the ball down their throats and kept the ball out of Justin Fields' hands. I mean, Ohio State has a history of having a struggling quarterbacks in the NFL, but they kept it out of his hands and let him do his things. Roquan Smith, 12 tackles. 8 of them solo tackles. Roquan Smith, absolutely filthy, wants to be out of there. Former Penn Stater Jaquan Brisker, 7 total tackles, 5 of them solo. He had a pretty good game. But yeah, that was probably my biggest surprise for this past week, was that win over the Patriots. All right, so now going to week 8. We already talked about the Ravens-Bucks game. I picked the Bucks because I didn't believe that they were gonna, put up a slouch fest like they've been doing. But we will talk about that game next week when we go over those predictions for week 9. But Yeah, I picked the Bucks. Jacob picked the Ravens. We texted each other those so that we knew we weren't going to be, trying to fool each other on that. But I'm not starting out hot with a loss of a Thursday night game, and you are starting out strong with a win. Going to the Sunday games, Denver going to Jacksonville. Now,
And isn't it in London?
I
It's
believe,
either in London or in Germany.
think it is in Germany, I think.
It's in London.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Yes, UK clash. Uh, so it is in London. Broncos
Great
at
game.
Jags, which I think that actually changes. I mean, it doesn't really change my prediction, but it strengthens my prediction because I was going to go with the Jags to begin with, and now that they're playing in London, which they play there like every year, so that's essentially a home field for them. So I'm gonna stick with my original pick and go with Jacksonville.
I am too. And Travis Etienne had a pretty good game last year, and I just don't. I just think
Last week,
there's too much crap coming out of Broncos, like especially with Russell Wilson doing high knees in the aisle of an airplane. I just think right now that team just
man, you are
they
hooked on
don't
that, aren't you?
they don't have a footing at all. They do not have
Yes, I,
footing.
I and I think this is where Jacksonville kind of gets back on their horse because they were having a decent season until it got derailed by the Eagles in that rain game. Uh, you know, going to Miami at Detroit, dude. I love Detroit and I want to pick Detroit here. I just can't. I gotta pick Miami. The
It's
Jalen Waddle and
Miami.
Tyreek Hill against that secondary is gonna be absolutely filthy.
Yeah, this Lions offense, they're going to be without Amon St. Brown and without DeAndre Swift. They are not the same offense as beginning of the year. They're not. It's not going to be a close game.
I Dude, I thought Detroit was gonna be so much better than they are this season, and they're
Well, in the
struggling.
first like 2 or 3 games, they were looking like it, but that's not been the case.
It hurts my soul a little bit. Carolina going to Atlanta, NFC South matchup. This is kind of a pivotal game for the NFC South, which is kind of surprising. But
Yeah,
I'm gonna go. So the Panthers have no Chuba Hubbard for this game, Chuba Hubbard. But I think I'm gonna pick the upset here and go with Carolina. I like the way Carolina played last week against Tampa. They're coming off a high horse going to Atlanta. I think they have a shot to win this game.
I have to go with the Falcons. I just think overall they're a better team, and I know the Panthers got that upset, but they just lost McCaffrey. They lost their second best receiver. They're on an interim head coach, so I have to go with the Falcons.
Now, the one reason I picked Carolina, like you were just saying, they had all those things go wrong. That's also a big reason why they're playing really well. So I do want to see what
Yeah.
they do with that. Going to the Cardinals and the Vikings. The Vikings haven't played a bunch of great teams this season. I'm going to pick the Cardinals. I think DeAndre Hopkins will have a big game against the Vikings. The I'm really interested to see the secondary and wide receiver matchups in this game because I feel like DeAndre Hopkins will have a big game. I feel like Justin Jefferson will have a big game, but I think when it comes down to it, I think the Cardinals just have very slightly a better secondary than the Vikings do.
I have
So
to go with
I'm
the
going with
Vikings and check down Charlie. I think the Vikings are going to pull this out. I think outside of the Philly game, they're having a sneaky good season, and I think we're going to see that against the Cardinals. We're going to see that they're a pretty decent team.
going to Chicago at Dallas. I think this one is an easy one. I got to pick Dallas even though Chicago just came off that big win.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to get the run game going as much as they're going to need to. And with Tony Pollard getting the majority of the carries, I think the Bears defense is going to have a hard time dealing with that kind of
Because
explosive back.
he's now two pieces instead of one.
Yeah.
Zeke, you could kind of know that it was going to be a run, not a pass.
Yep.
Las Vegas at New Orleans. I'm really interested to see where this game goes, and I'm gonna pick Las Vegas in this.
I am too.
They have
I,
those close games that they should be winning. I think this is going to be another close game that they actually will pull out on top of.
Yeah, I said this earlier. I think the record doesn't reflect how good of a team they are. I just think the Raiders, Josh Jacobs is ridiculous. Derek Carr he's a
He's a solid
deep
quarterback.
Yeah, he's a solid quarterback, and I just think they're going to be able to beat the Saints.
The fact that Derek Carr is the worst quarterback in the AFC West is ludicrous. I would
Well,
take Derek Carr over a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL.
yeah,
Mariota, PJ
yeah.
Walker, just for a couple examples. I'd take him
Most of
over
the
a lot of.
NFC, most of the NFC, you would probably take Derek
Yes,
Carr.
Derek Carr is a sneaky good quarterback. The fact that he's the worst in the NFC West is ludicrous, but like you said, I think they're a better team than their record reflects. Going to the Pittsburgh Eagles game, this one is one that we
Man,
will
this
talk
is
about more
difficult,
in
bro.
depth.
So hard.
But Eagles coming off of a bye week, undefeated 6-0, looking to continue their streak, coming back well rested and healthy. I'm gonna take the upset and go with the Eagles by a million. Now, but I am gonna pick
Oh,
the Eagles. You know what is shocking though? The Penn State Eagles game. The Eagles are favored by 11.
the
Or
Penn State.
Pittsburgh Eagles game. The Eagles are favored by 11. Now, if I'm not personally a betting man, but if I was a better, I would take the under, and that I would take that Pittsburgh would cover the spread.
Yeah, I just have to go with the Eagles. I don't know who they're going to start at quarterback, but if they start Trubisky, they'll have a better chance. But I don't think they're going to be good enough.
I don't think anyone has ever heard those words come out of their mouth. If they start Trubisky, they'll have a better chance.
I mean, I think they will because Pickett, his reads last week were pretty bad.
New England at the Jets. Now, when was the last time that the Jets were better than the Patriots?
Well, they
ago.
beat him in like the Darrelle Revis days. They were better than them for like a year or two. They actually beat them in Foxborough in a playoff game once, but it's been since around then. But that was only for a 1 year stretch. But I'm actually going to go with the Patriots because
Wow.
they just lost. They just lost Brees Hall, and I think he's really been carrying their offense. And
What?
I think Belichick is going to be mad coming off of the Bears loss, and I think we're going to see that.
Does this change your insight? The Jets just traded for James Robinson, which that opens up the backfield for Travis Etienne in Jacksonville. So that'll make Travis Etienne play better if you guys have him on fantasy. And
I do.
That will then the Jets will be running more through James Robinson. I think the Jets are going to win.
I don't think it changes too much because he's still going to be going into a new system, and I just think that Belichick is going to be really mad coming off of that Bears loss, and I think we're going to see that.
Yeah, how much James Robinson will actually have an effect in this game is going to be yet to be seen because he did just get traded there, I believe, on last Sunday or last Monday. This past Monday. So,
very recent.
So he's still got to learn the playbook and everything, but maybe they work like the 49ers and try to push him into the offense just to at least get him on the field. Tennessee at Houston. I don't think there's really much to talk about this one. Tennessee is going to, run the ball down their throats with Derrick Henry.
And Malik Willis is going to be starting this week.
Oh, really?
Yes, he is. I just saw
two big benchings in the AFC South.
I saw that Malik Willis, I believe, is designated to start.
Wow, it doesn't change my pick, but I'm picking Tennessee. But I'm
picking Tennessee as well, even though they've been a little disappointing. But I just think that they're better than the Texans.
Giants at the Seahawks. This is going to be an interesting game. It's in Seattle, and since it's in Seattle, I think I'm going to pick Seattle. That's the only reason. If it was in New York, I might.
They're very similar teams when you look at it. They're based off the run game. Their quarterbacks have been pretty efficient this year.
Their quarterbacks have just been enough. That's really all they need.
Yeah. Their defenses, I think the Giants' defense is better than the Seahawks, but I think the Seahawks' offense is better than the Giants.
I agree.
Obviously, the 12th man in Seahawks in Seattle with them piping in noise, I just think the Seahawks are going to win.
I agree with you on every single point you just said. I think Seattle has the better offense. New York has the better defense. But when it comes down to it, Geno Smith performs when he needs to perform as opposed to Danny Dimes. So I'm going with the Seahawks with the 12th man. Washington at the Colts. Another game that we will talk about more in the actual podcast, but as of right now, just a little glimpse. Going to Indianapolis, playing Sam Ellinger. I think you guys win this game.
I do too, considering that the quarterback change, and considering that like the whole team has pretty much elevated their play, and I think we're going to see McLaurin get involved a lot earlier, and I think that could pose some problems. I don't know what the deal with Jahan Dotson is, but he may be back. Brian Robinson's been playing better, so I think this will be a win.
Now, my question is how is this a 425 game?
I don't know, but it's our first 4 o'clock game of the year.
Your first uh, pseudo primetime game. Actually, no,
Yeah,
you guys had a Thursday night football.
night game.
You had a
That
Thursday
was
night game. That's right.
that was disgusting. That game was gross.
49ers at the Rams. This is going to be a really good game. I'm going to go with the 49ers, though. And I believe that's with the sweep on the season, actually. I'm going to double check that because I think the 49ers won earlier, but I do like the 49ers here as opposed to the Rams. The Rams have been struggling a lot this season.
I'd have to agree with you on that. I just think Matthew Stafford has really been struggling, and if he continues to play like this, he's not going to get near the Hall.
And that I was right. The 49ers did win that one 24-9. So I think and that was in San Fran. So LA maybe could have an advantage in LA, but I think LA is such a pop culture city that
we saw with really the Super Bowl parade, like nobody showed up.
And when the Cowboys played there, everyone was like, there were a bunch of Cowboys fans there. So this is a really easy travel for San Fran fans and could fill up the stadium. So I'm going to go San Fran here.
Like McCaffrey's going to know this offense a little better, and I think we're going to see him integrated a little bit more because he fits what Shanahan wants to do. He's kind of like Deebo Samuel, but he's a running back. So I think we're going to see him play a bigger factor in getting them the win.
So you're taking San Fran in this one too?
Yeah.
All right, Green Bay at Buffalo. I think this is another one that's going to be easy. Yeah, Buffalo should absolutely dominate.
Yeah. Nothing about the Packers game last week says that this is going to be a close game.
And finally, Monday Night Football. The Bengals go to Cleveland. I'm taking Cincinnati in this one. Joe Burrow just came off an amazing game. I do like Cleveland's secondary a lot more, but I like Joe Burrow. And even with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and even though Jamar Chase is out, T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd's still a really good wide receiver duo, and I'm going with Cincy.
I'm going to take the Browns because their offensive line I still think is questionable, and I think Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney are going to have a big game.
That's a valid point, but I'm really interested to see that game too. There are a couple good games this week. So going off of that,
what's your game of the week?
I was just about to ask you the same thing. I'm gonna go with. You know what? I'm gonna go with Cincy and the Browns. I was between a couple games. I was between the Seahawks game, the Rams game, and the Bengals game, but I'm going to go with the Bengals game. I think just for one, it's a division rival game, AFC North rival game. You got Joe Burrow, who might be the best. He's not the biggest guy. He's not a, he's not a quote unquote quarterback that you look at a quarterback, you look at Justin Herbert. He is a pure quarterback. Big guy, strong arm, just has those throws. Joe Burrow relies on timing, and he's more like a Drew Brees, and Justin Herbert's more like an Aaron Rodgers, So I just think the way that Joe Burrow plays the game, it's kind of, iffy for defenses, and so I'm gonna go with that as my game of the week. And yours? It is going to be interesting to see while you're thinking about that. It is going to be interesting to see Joe Burrow against the secondary of Cleveland because Denzel Ward was a first-round pick. They have Greedy Williams, who was a second-round pick, and who was their previous one. It was Greg Newsome the second, who was a first-round pick. So they have a really good secondary there.
And Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney against that questionable Bengals offensive line. But I'm going to go with the Giants and Seahawks game. I think that's going to be the game of the week.
I think that the San Fran game should get a little love, but like you said, that Giants and Seahawks game is going to be really interesting with the 12th man
And
probably playing a
yeah,
big
it's in
factor.
Seattle.
Yes, it's going to be a good game there in Seattle. So with that, that is going to finish off our Week 8 predictions. Again, this is only on YouTube, so you guys can watch it on here. If you guys want to check out our podcast, it is Brotherly Love in the District on Spotify, Apple, wherever you find your podcasts. You guys want to go to our TikTok and follow us on TikTok when we post like videos and stuff. I just posted something on the Robert Quinn trade that we will talk about in the podcast. So we put on trades and stuff on there. So if you want to go check that out, our Instagram is also up there, and our email to ask us questions and comments on this side here. Can you get it, or are you just gonna give up? Wrong side. So this it is all that stuff is right there. So go check that stuff out. And with that, we are gonna end it off there, and we will see you guys next week.
See you later.